The bright dots on the screen made no sense at first. Lisa Johnson rubbed her tired eyes and looked again. The pattern was unlike anything she had seen before in her 15 years as an astronomer at Arecibo Observatory. She checked her equipment twice, then called her colleague. "Frank, you need to see this," she said, her voice unusually tense. Frank Miller shuffled across the room, coffee mug in hand. When he saw the readings, the mug slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. Neither of them noticed the spreading puddle of coffee. That can't be right," Frank whispered. "Those are not natural formations." Within 3 hours, observatories around the world confirmed what Lisa had discovered. 2,000 objects, massive in size, had appeared at the edge of our solar system. They were moving in perfect formation toward Earth. The news broke worldwide. By morning, people gathered in streets, in homes, in bars, anywhere with screens, watching as grainy images showed the approaching fleet. Some people panicked, rushing to stores for supplies. Others stood in quiet shock. Many turned to prayer. At the Pentagon, General Alan Crawford stared at the satellite feeds with a grim expression. The president had just declared a global state of emergency and called for an immediate meeting of all world leaders. "What are our options?" the president asked over the secure video link. "Sir, we're looking at approximately 2,000 vessels, each one larger than our biggest aircraft carriers," Crawford replied. "If their intentions are hostile, our conventional weapons may not be effective." The Chinese premier spoke next. "We have mobilized our armed forces, but we agree with the American assessment. We cannot fight this alone." For the first time in human history, nations that had been enemies for generations reached out to each other. Russia, America, China, Iran, Israel. Old hatreds were set aside in the face of a threat to all humanity. 6 days after Lisa's discovery, the alien fleet entered Earth orbit. Their massive ships blocked out the sun in some areas, casting long shadows across cities. Then, a message came through on all communication channels, in all languages, simultaneously. "People of Earth, we are the Vraxian Empire. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender your governments and resources and your deaths will be quick. Resist and we will make examples of your cities. You have 12 hours to comply." The message was simple and terrifying, but something strange happened in those 12 hours. Instead of collapsing in fear, humanity began to prepare. "They don't understand us," said Susan Adams, a high school teacher in Boston, as she helped load supplies into school buses. "They think we'll just give up." All across the world, people were evacuating cities, moving into subway tunnels, mountains, and rural areas. Governments shared military secrets and strategies. Scientists worked together, analyzing the little data they had on the alien ships. When the 12 hours ended, humanity's answer came not from world leaders, but from ordinary people. In New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, and 100 other cities, the aliens found not surrender, but empty streets. The populations had vanished. Commander Krull, leader of the Vraxian fleet, was confused by the reports from his landing parties. "What do you mean the cities are empty?" he demanded, his gray skin flushing purple with anger. "Supreme Commander, the humans have fled," his officer replied. "We find only a few remaining, mostly elderly or sick who could not travel." Krull slammed his 3-fingered hand on the control panel. "Find them. They cannot have gone far. Send search parties to the surrounding areas." The first Vraxian troops landed in Chicago. They moved through the empty streets in groups of 10, their armored bodies making metallic sounds as they walked. They carried weapons that could melt steel and wore helmets with glowing red eyes. What they didn't know was that they were being watched. In an apartment building overlooking Michigan Avenue, Sam Cooper adjusted his binoculars. The former Army Ranger had stayed behind with a small group of volunteers. They had one purpose: to learn about the enemy. "Their armor looks heaviest at the chest," Sam whispered into a radio. "The joints seem vulnerable, especially at the knees. And those tanks on their backs might be for breathing." Similar observations were happening worldwide. Humanity was gathering intelligence. The Vraxians made their first show of force in Rio de Janeiro, where some people had refused to leave. From orbit, They fired energy weapons that turned a 5-block radius into glass. They broadcast the destruction, worldwide expecting submission. Instead, they received reports of attacks on their landing parties. In Seoul, a group of delivery drivers on motorcycles had lured Vraxian soldiers into a narrow alley packed with explosives. In Cairo, the aliens found their communication devices suddenly failing, leaving them isolated from their command. In Seoul, London, 3 of their ships experienced mysterious engine failures after taking on local water. These were not coordinated military responses. These were ordinary people fighting back with whatever they had. Commander Krull couldn't understand it. His species had conquered 17 worlds before Earth. Usually, after the first demonstration of power, the native species surrendered. These humans were different. They are irrational, he told his war council. We destroyed their buildings. We have superior weapons and technology. Why do they not submit? A week into the invasion, the Vraxians controlled the skies but found the ground increasingly dangerous. Their soldiers reported ambushes using primitive but effective traps. Their water and air samples were often contaminated. Local electromagnetic pulses disabled their equipment in seemingly random patterns. In a secret underground facility beneath Denver, Dr. Karen White worked without sleep. Her team of biochemists had captured a Vraxian soldier and made a crucial discovery. Their breathing apparatus filters our air, she explained to the military officers present. Something in our atmosphere is toxic to them. If we can damage those filters, they'll be vulnerable. General Crawford nodded. How quickly can you develop something that will attack their filters? Give me 3 days, Karen replied. On the other side of the country, in a hidden hangar in rural Pennsylvania, a group of engineers led by Steve Miller examined a crashed Vraxian scout ship. Their technology isn't magic, Steve told his team as they carefully disassembled alien equipment. It follows rules, just different ones than we're used to. We can figure this out. As the first month of occupation came to an end, Commander Krull faced an uncomfortable truth. The easy conquest he had promised his emperor was turning into a costly struggle. Humanity wasn't fighting with a single army or strategy. They were fighting with a million small resistances, learning and adapting with each encounter. We may need to reconsider our approach, Krull's second-in-command suggested carefully. Krull hissed in anger. No, we will not be defeated by primitives. Prepare the fleet for orbital bombardment. If they will not surrender their cities, they shall have no planet at all. What Krull didn't realize was that his private communication had been intercepted. Humanity now knew what was coming next, and they were already planning their response. They think they know what we're capable of, General Crawford said to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They have no idea what happens when humans fight for survival. Around the world, people prepared for the next phase of the war. They weren't just hiding anymore. They were getting ready to show the aliens exactly why the invasion of Earth would become a story that terrified the galaxy. Commander Krull stood before the large window of his command ship, watching Earth rotate slowly below. His mission was failing. After 6 weeks of occupation, his forces controlled less territory than when they first landed. This had never happened before in Vraxian history. Supreme Commander, we have lost contact with another 12 ground teams, reported Officer Zex. All in what the humans call Wyoming. Krull's breathing quickened in anger. That is a sparsely populated region. How are they defeating our soldiers there? Unknown, sir. The last transmission mentioned something about the locals using wildlife to track our movements. The Vraxians had expected an easy victory. They had studied Earth from afar and seen a divided planet with primitive weapons. What they hadn't understood was how quickly humans could adapt. In the mountains of Wyoming, Mary Collins crouched in the snow beside her hunting rifle. The former park ranger had spent her life tracking animals through these mountains. Now she tracked aliens. They always follow the same patrol routes, she whispered to the small group of hunters with her. And they haven't figured out how to move quietly in snow. Rick Barnes nodded, adjusting his scope. Their breathing tanks freeze up in our cold, makes them slow. Mary pointed to the ridge above them. Joe's team placed the jammers up there. Once these patrols lose contact with their ship, they'll follow standard procedure and return to their last clear communication point. Which is right, where we want them, Rick finished. The trap was simple but effective. When the Vraxian patrol reached the ambush point, shaped charges buried in the snow detonated beneath them. Their armor,